Gnostic teaching on martyrdom, rethinking church history. We believe Irenaeus was influenced by the deception of Satan as he spoke of martyrs rushing to Christ, implying they would enter his presence before the resurrection. This belief is confirmed when, in his account of the persecution at Lyons and Vienne, he refers to Vettius Epagathus, who was martyred, saying, "He was, and is still, a true disciple of Christ, following the Lamb wherever he goes." This phrase, taken from Revelation 14, verse 4, was used 70 years after John's death. Such a statement assumes the idea of immediate ascension to heaven after death, which was commonly referred to as the birthday of martyrdom. Additionally, Irenaeus mentions the concept of eternal fire in hell for those who fall away. Ignatius, an elder in the church at Antioch, harbored an intense and misguided desire for martyrdom, contradicting Jesus' teaching to flee to another city when persecuted. Instead, when Emperor Trajan arrived in Antioch around AD 107 during his journey to the Parthian War, Ignatius willingly handed himself over. When brought before Trajan, the emperor reportedly said, "What a reckless spirit you have, to defy our commands and lead others into such foolishness to their ruin." Ignatius had served as a leader in the church at Antioch for 37 years, with 26 of those overlapping with the Apostle John's lifetime. In AD 107, Ignatius was transported to Smyrna on his way to Rome, where he was sentenced by Trajan to face wild beasts as public entertainment. Polycarp was martyred 60 years after Ignatius, around AD 167. If Polycarp was among those in Smyrna to whom the Spirit said, "I know your works, tribulation and poverty, but you are rich," and if he remained rich in faith until the end, this cannot be proven merely by his martyrdom. Even members of the Synagogue of Satan suffered similar fates. Many within the Synagogue of Satan, who took pride in following Jezebel, displayed spiritual gifts. They could speak in tongues, prophesy, comprehend mysteries, and possess knowledge and faith strong enough to move mountains. Some even gave away their possessions to the poor or offered their bodies to be burned. Driven by an obsession with martyrdom, they sought out death to the point where pagan authorities refused to execute them, instructing them to take their own lives instead. Yet, as Paul noted, such acts lacked love and were therefore meaningless. This remains true today. This obsession with martyrdom led multitudes to sacrifice themselves in misguided attempts to atone for their sins. These individuals were the ones described as committing adultery with Jezebel, including the clerical leaders and their followers, who revered these leaders just as people today idolize deceptive clergy, seeing them as spiritual guides and fathers. Anyone who willingly faced death, whether by fire, wild beasts, or other means of martyrdom, without true faith, was like sounding brass or a tinkling cymbal, ultimately destined for the judgment of the second death. Lacking the faith to overcome the world, they instead succumb to its allurements, leaving them vulnerable to the second death, which occurs after the resurrection. At that time, Jezebel and those who followed her will face punishment in the bed prepared for them, a reference to the Great Tribulation, where apostasy is destroyed during Jesus' return and the hour of judgment. Babylon the Great, the city representing spiritual corruption, will collapse, having polluted all nations with its sins. The ecclesiastical structures upholding this system, along with their clergy, will be destroyed by God's wrath, poured out in full force as described in Revelation 14, verse 7 to 11, and 18, verse 2. The craze for martyrdom arose from ignorance and misplaced zeal, not from true discipleship. Paul reminds us that even if one sacrifices their body, it means nothing without love, which he explains is the fulfillment of the law, 1 Corinthians 13. Martyrdom is not proof of being united with Christ, and without this unity, one cannot be considered his brother. At best, martyrdom demonstrates the individual's dedication to their beliefs, whatever those may be. For instance, the martyrdom of figures like Huss, Jerome, Cranmer, and Servetus showed their conviction in opposing Roman Catholicism or Calvinism. However, these acts did not change the fact that they were part of a broader system of apostasy. The guilt of this apostasy can only be removed through a proper understanding and obedience to the truth, not through the flames of martyrdom.